Chris Mack.
Hannity and Combs is up next. I'm Bill O'Reilly. We will see you again next time, I hope. And Godspeed to all of those affected by these awful hurricanes. Please stay with Fox throughout the evening.
And this is a Fox News alert. Hurricane Rita is approaching the Gulf Coast. It is a Category 3. It is packing winds of over 120 miles per hour. By daybreak tomorrow, the eye of the storm is expected to make landfall. Our nation's fourth largest city, Houston, Texas, has been abandoned. Millions of people have fled nature's fury to high ground in Dallas and Austin. The coastal cities of Port Arthur and Beaumont, Texas, now appear to be directly in this storm's path. In Galveston, residents have fled. Streets are deserted. Only the threat of catastrophic flooding remains now. And to the east, the already devastated city of New Orleans is drowning once again. Heavy rains have pushed the waters of Lake Pontchartrain over and through the patchwork levees. Water is streaming through breaches 100 feet wide. Some evacuees whose homes were destroyed once already say that it's like watching a murder for a second time. Our reporters tonight include Shepard Smith, Geraldo Rivera, and Bill Hemmer. They are all over the region tonight, and we're going to hear from them in just a second. But first, with an update and a track of this storm, AccuWeather meteorologist Joe Bastardi is with us. Joe, by my take, starting covering this Monday, you were only 30 miles off and maybe 20 or 30 miles per hour, but it's everything you said it was going to be from early on this week.
Well, I'm not so sure I'm off on the wind speed because the barometric pressure is down at 930 millibars, and that's lower than Carla, which caused winds to 150 miles an hour. Port Lavaca in 1961. We're concerned that this eye is going to tighten up and this wind's going to appear. There's already been wind gust over 100 miles an hour on the Louisiana coast, and the storm is still a few hours off the coast. Let's take a look at the cloud photograph. I'll get out of the way here so we can see it. You see the eye over the past couple of hours has been shrinking, trying to expand. There's some drier air involved. There's some interesting little tidbits going on here. The storm is progressing steadily to the northwest, and some of the computer modeling is trying over the next 3 to 4 hours to try to turn it a little bit more to the west before it finally goes inland. The reason that would happen is because of dry air, cool air, I should say, trying to come in and resist the storm. So this eye that you see down in here, it's coming on now, turns off to the west for a while, then goes inland. No matter which way you slice it, though, people are getting hammered. There's already wind gust over 55 miles an hour at Houston's Intercontinental Airport, 60 miles an hour at Galveston. And we got to remember something, folks. There are no weak sides of these kind of storms here. You know how everybody says, well, there's the weak side of the storm, strong side of the storm. Not with a storm with no fronts around. There are no fronts around this. This is just a hurricane coming in, just like you'd see, let's say, a typhoon coming into Iwo Jima or something like that. So we don't have a weak or strong side. What will happen is the winds will be blowing very, very hard down Galveston Bay. I'm still expecting wind gusts of 100, 120 miles an hour at Galveston, but maybe 140, 150 miles an hour at Port Arthur. That's just ground zero right now if this does not change its track. Now let's take a look at what's going on as far as the area we're looking at. There's the Port Arthur area. We're expecting the storm to come in here. It may jog and then come in. Houston, you get strong northerly winds, heavy rains. Galveston, a pincer movement again, because what's happening is the water is coming out. This is like a giant hand pushing water toward Galveston, and then the wind comes down the bay, gusting to 100 miles an hour. So we've got a real problem here. I mean, this is going to be a horrible storm, the worst storm in Texas and southwest Louisiana history, beating Audrey, beating Carla. Guys?
All right, Joe, we'll be checking in with you throughout the night. Joining us now from Nassau Bay, Texas, our own Alicia Acuna. Alicia.
Hi, Sean. The wind gusts have strengthened within just the last 10-15 minutes that we've been standing out here, and really this is just a sampling of what Rita is expected to deliver. The rain is just kind of pounding us here, and you can just see its chaotic manner. And I can tell you just from standing here, the wind is pushing down very hard. Sometimes it feels like someone's just pushing down on my head and knocking us down that way. If you take a look here, we're standing just along Clear Lake. Clear Lake feeds into Galveston Bay, and while we're not going to receive a direct hit, that is still not necessarily the concern here. It is the after effects that Galveston Bay is facing here, and we're talking about some severe flooding. We've been talking to folks who are on Galveston right now. They're saying that the west end of Galveston, which is not protected by the seawall on the Gulf side, is already covered in portions with water. There's a concern about the bay side, that once Galveston Bay swells, it is going to be pushing about 7 inches of water onto that side of the island. So they're going to have water coming at them from both ends. They've prepared for that. They got 90% of their population out of there, and they did it pretty early. The traffic that we've seen on Interstate 45 going northbound out of Houston was not what we saw later on in the week out of Galveston. That went down to a trickle fairly early. They were really working hard to get people out of there. The people who remain in Galveston right now, aside from the people who've decided to wait it out in their homes, which is a handful of the folks there, they have all of their police and fire personnel. They were told that they had to stay. The mayor is there as well. They've divided the city government of Galveston. Half of them are on the mainland here, and half remain on the island. That way, should there be any federal assistance that is necessary in Galveston, they can ask for help right away, because someone of authority will be able to communicate with the federal government. Sean?
All right, Alicia, stay safe out there tonight. We'll be checking in with you later. And joining us now from the Emergency Operations Command Center in Austin, Texas tonight is the governor of the great state of Texas, Rick Perry. Governor, thank you for being with us. You said earlier today you asked the nation to keep Texas in its prayers. I know the nation is, Governor. Are you confident that everything could be done, has been done, and are you ready to get in there as soon as this passes to assist people who may need assistance?
Yes, sir. I had the feel of the back of an aircraft before they're getting ready to jump. Everybody's been working awfully hard here for the last 4 or 5 days, and now there's a little bit of calmness setting into the center here behind me, knowing that there's a lot of big work in front of us, and that's the search and rescue that's going to go on. And I want to make sure that all those people who have loved ones out across southeast Texas know that every effort is going to be made to take care of their loved ones, and we're going to have, we got over 5,000 National Guard troops, we got 2,000 Department of Public Safety troopers, a number of game wardens and other law enforcement officials that are ready to go in and support these individuals who may need some help.
Governor, we watched the evacuation of between Texas and Louisiana, about 2 million people. A tremendous number of people, and it seemed to go as smooth as I think anybody could have expected, Governor. What do you think your biggest challenges are going to be in the hours to come now?
Well, it was probably the largest evacuation that's ever happened in American history, about 2.5 million people, which is larger than 17 of the states and the District of Columbia out there. So the emergency management folks and the Homeland Security people, along with the federal government, did a great job of assisting this evacuation. You know, our biggest concern now is just making sure that our citizens are safe, is the search and rescue operation. That's where our focus is now, as well as it should be, and getting in and continuing to put a plan in place that we've worked on many times before, hoping we would never have to put it in place, but it's happening now, and it's working as advertised.
Governor, it's Alan Combs. Thank you for coming on with us tonight, sir. How do you work on mobilizing people, short of knowing exactly where landfall and when landfall will take place? What amount of guesswork is going on?
Well, there's not a lot of guesswork, frankly. I mean, the guesswork's all over with. It was hard work and preparation, and we've had over 150 exercises since September the 11th of 2001, not just for a hurricane. And we've had real-time events in the state of Texas. The space shuttle disaster. We've had Tropical Storm Allison that dumped tens of inches of rain in the Houston area, over $5 billion worth of damage. We had the Queen Isabella Causeway that was a man-made disaster. Again, we have a lot of disasters in the state of Texas. We unfortunately have a lot of real-time practice, plus these exercises that are paying off in spades now.
All right, Governor, let me ask you about the evacuation and how were you satisfied with the speed with which people were able to get where they needed to go? Because I know some people sat in traffic for 10, 12 hours.
Well, when you think about the size of what occurred. 2.5 million people moving out of a relatively small space in 36 hours. It was almost biblical in its proportion. And I understand people being frustrated stuck in a vehicle for 15 hours, but that sure beats being plucked off the top of your home by a helicopter, because, I mean, these people did the right thing. And we saw a Herculean effort by the Texas Department of Transportation and the private sector oil and gas folks that delivered oil tankers in last night to clear these highways and get the people on their way.
All right, Governor Perry, thanks for being with us. And
Welcome,
the state of Texas is in our thoughts and prayers tonight, sir. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks,
and we wish you all the best. Joining us now on the phone from Houston is House Majority Leader Tom DeLay of Texas. Congressman, thank you for being back on the program. There was one little problem as part of the evacuation, and there were some people running out of gasoline. Are you confident, Congressman, that everybody that wanted to get out got out?
Everybody that wanted to get out got out. It was a terrible experience, I have to say, and we've learned a lot on how you evacuate 2.5 million people. But there's some things that we've learned, and when we do it again, we'll probably be better at it.
Yeah, well, I mean, but everybody did get out. I mean, we had enough advance notice, right? So,
well, the most spectacular thing is the people that really needed to get out, the people in nursing homes and hospitals, the people of special needs. I got to tell you, the city of Houston and the cities around Houston and the counties around Houston, it was amazing. Yeah. Tens of thousands of people in wheelchairs, in beds. Were lifted out in record time. It was a pretty amazing thing.
What do you anticipate, Congressman, will be the biggest challenges come, say, 8, 9, 10 o'clock your time tomorrow morning? And what is in place to take care of people that are in need?
Well, that's the best part about it. The coordination and the chain of command is probably the best I've ever seen. I was dealing with that in Katrina and trying to establish some sort of chain of command and helping people do that. Here, our local officials, the mayor of the city of Houston, the county judge of Harris County, Robert Eccles, the small city mayors and county judges of the counties around here have done an incredible job. They're the first line of response, and they've done an incredible job in executing their response plan. The state of Texas has been absolutely wonderful in help, and the federal government is in place right now with all kinds of supplies, ice, water, meals, mobile kitchens, National Guard's ready. They're all in place to come in to those areas that are devastated on a moment's notice. I think you'll see the reaction and recovery is going to be pretty amazing.
Congressman, it's Alan Combs. Thank you for being with us tonight. We certainly appreciate it. What is the communication like among local, state, federal officials? How does that work, and how is that going?
You'd love this.
Do we lose the congressman?
Alan, you'll absolutely love this. You got Democrats, Republicans all working together. It's just pretty amazing, and we're all united. The mayor's a Democrat, the county judge is a Republican. And everybody is just coming together and doing what needs to be done. They understand the chain of command, and everybody's trying to help. And there's a little bureaucracy that we need to deal with later, but it's not inhibiting our ability to get things to people in need.
All right, Congressman, Sean Hannity here. Look, I'll be down there in Houston in a couple of weeks. I look forward to seeing everybody down there when they're back home and in their homes safely. And thanks for being with us tonight. We wish you the best.
We love to see you, Sean, and you'll see a city that's able to completely recover in a very short period of time.
Well, I got to tell you something. The ability of the people to get out of there as safely as they did was frankly inspiring, considering how many people you had to evacuate. Thanks for being with us, sir. Standing by now in the rain in Port Arthur, Texas, is Fox's own Geraldo Rivera. Geraldo, I see those winds are picking up big time. You're right there in the middle of where we anticipate this is going to hit. Whoa.
Yeah, kicking up big time is literally what just happened. Here's the problem, Sean. This is the seawall of Port Arthur. It stands about 15 feet high. It's built in the 70s by the Army Corps of Engineers. The other side of it is the Intercoastal Waterway that connects the nation's oil refining heartland to the rest of the United States. This is a very, very important waterway, but also this seawall, built in the 1970s, is all that protects this very low-lying city. The city is really very vulnerable to these winds, but more importantly to the storm surge. And they're expecting now a 15-foot storm surge. They're going to come out of the gusts again a little too wicked there, and that storm really heading right for us. But Port Arthur, if you can, Johnny, just keep going. Here, let's pan over. I'll show you. You can see the city is about the same height as the water on the Intercoastal Waterway. So if they have a 15-foot storm surge and it overmounts the storm wall there, the lights keep going on and off out there. No one is in town, Sean and Al. No one. You know, I know that our colleague Shep Smith is on the other side of town, but the cops have all gone. The fire department's gone. The city government is gone. All the people are gone. The power plant is still functioning, but it's on autopilot. And there, the lights just went out again. They come on, they come off. Transformers are blowing up already, and you have, you know, this is really not nearly what it is going to be. We're in the lee of a tower here built, you know, built near the seawall. But when this storm really gets wicked around 1 in the morning, and the water starts splashing over that, it's going to be bad.
Although they've been predicting all day that the entire city where you are will be underwater, and that's pretty much what you're describing, that situation right there. The question is, how long do you think you'll be able to stay there now, as it's really just beginning to hit even now as we speak?
Well, you know, Sean, I'm going to try and use our best tactical judgment, getting as much information as we can. We're going to be watching the water level. The thing about the water, I don't expect it to be instantaneous. They say that once it starts slapping over here, we should have an hour to get out of here, head toward Beaumont. Now, Beaumont is better situated.
Looks like we lost Geraldo there for a second. You can see right in the thick of things.
This is what's amazing. This is just the beginning. And they're predicting in particular, because this is ground zero, Port Arthur, that this entire city is going to be back underwater. Geraldo, you're back up with us, my friend. Go ahead.
All right, Beaumont's the city, as I was saying. I don't know. Do you have me, Sean?
Yes,
we got
you're up. Yes.
Okay. Beaumont is a city of twice the size. All the lights now. All the lights gone. We still have power, but the lights along the seawall are out. We'll monitor it as the water starts coming up. We're going to boogie, as I said, to Beaumont, a city of 112,000 people, up the Sabine River. Sean Allen, back to you guys.
Geraldo, very quickly, you literally look like you're the only one in your crew there. They evacuated everybody, and we're pretty confident that everybody who's needed to has gotten to higher ground, right?
Everybody is out of here. There's no doubt about it, Alan. There's nobody left in Beaumont. Even the hospital is empty. Everything's empty. Here, get on that tree. You can see, Johnny, you can get an idea of some of the gusts coming in now. The one that you know, almost blew me over there, I'd say at least the 60 knotter. But this storm still packing 125 mile-an-hour winds. It's just 100 miles off the Sabine Pass. I don't know if you have, do you have my footage from the oil refining? Okay,
yes,
first let's start with the importance of this area. Roll that.
It's rolling now.
Okay, so you're looking at as Hurricane Rita's howling winds and driving rain began plowing into the Louisiana-Texas shore east of Houston, sparing that big city the brunt of the storm, at least initially. The fear is that the nation's oil refineries and oil industry concentrated here along the Gulf Coast would become Rita's principal victim. This is the largest concentration of oil refineries and the oil industry in the United States. These offshore rigs and the other facilities have already been evacuated, but who knows what will be left in the wake of this storm. All right, so who knows what will be left indeed. That's the story right now from Port Arthur. Again, I'm in the lee of this tower now, and the gusts aren't wrapping around, at least not for the moment. But we expect it to get pretty wicked before this is over.
All right.
You guys in New York.
Geraldo will be going back to you. And even when you go to Beaumont, you're still right in the middle of it. So you're not exactly getting away from it that much when you go into Beaumont, Geraldo.
Yeah, you know, I don't know. We'd like storm fodder. We choose to be here. We're experienced. You know, we've been around the block a few times. Got some good people with me. Brother Craig, Greg Hart. Good people with me.
All right, Geraldo, be careful, my friend. Thanks, and we'll be reporting that. We'll be getting your reports throughout the evening tonight. And, of course, a special edition of Hannity and Combs, midnight Eastern. That's 9 o'clock on the West Coast. Now, forecasts predict that Rita is aiming for the coastal towns right there on the Texas-Louisiana border. And we're joined now on the phone by Beaumont, Texas, police officer Crystal Holmes. We're just speaking with Geraldo, Mr. Holmes, and he's saying he's going to leave Port Arthur and go to Beaumont. Like Port Arthur, Beaumont is right in the path of this hurricane.
We certainly are in the path of the hurricane. At this time, we're experiencing wind gusts of up to 80 miles an hour, sustained winds around 55 to 60. They anticipate these sustained to go up to anywhere from 90 to 100. They told us that we could expect 10 to 12 hours of hurricane force winds varying from 50 all the way up. So we are prepared for this. We have been extremely successful in evacuating not only the city of Beaumont, but the whole county as well. The mayors from all of the cities have been on TV for days giving the first voluntary evacuation order and then the mandatory evacuation order. But we tried to prepare our citizens in advance.
Well, can I ask you, we have had discussions in the last couple of days about people that choose to stay anyway and ride it out. Is that also the case in your area in Beaumont?
Yes, we do have some people that did choose to stay. We've made it very clear that once the winds reach a sustained speed of 50 miles per hour, all emergency services will be terminated until it's safe for those officers, firefighters, and EMS to enter back out into the city. And we are in that lockdown mode at this time.
Crystal, it's Alan Combs. I understand that Katrina survivors, some of them had to be moved again, and you had to move 11,000 people. How did that work?
Well, the Katrina survivors, we were able to either place them in homes and they were able to leave with the vehicles that they had, or we were able to fly them out. The government provided transportation to those individuals prior to us beginning our local evacuations. We were successful here in evacuating approximately 10,000 by air. We were in a scramble mode because the hurricane looked like it was going into Matagorda up in on the other side of Galveston, which put Galveston, Freeport, and Houston in the danger zone. So naturally the resources were directed over into that area, but when the storm took a turn to the east towards us, we had to look for other means to get some of these evacuees out, including our medical needs hospitals and nursing homes. And so we had a number of C-130s that were in here for about 18 hours in and out, taking people out of the city, in addition to a large number of buses. We evacuated over 3,000 people by buses, sending them up into North and Central Texas. So with that and the people that left on their own, we were extremely successful, we feel, in getting everyone out that wanted to go.
All right, Beaumont, Texas police officer Crystal Holmes with us tonight on Hannity and Combs, and we wish you the best tonight and all the best to all those people that are working so hard to help other people. Now, for the second time this month, the city of New Orleans is again underwater. We go now live to Fox's own Bill Hemmer. He's standing by in New Orleans, where we have had, again, these battered levees breaking. Bill, what's the latest?
Hey, Sean, good evening. The levee system here could not hold Katrina. We saw that 3.5 weeks ago. And early this morning at daybreak, we saw the levee system can't hold Rita either. In at least 3 different neighborhoods in New Orleans tonight, the same neighborhoods that were flooded by this storm almost 4 weeks ago, they're back underwater again. The 9th Ward is covered. So is St. Bernard Parish, east and south of the city of New Orleans. And the neighborhood in the north, Gentilly, is underwater too. Now, the Corps of Engineers, frankly, we brought this to their attention at daybreak early this morning when our crew was out there on the scene and witnessing what appeared to be this gush of running water. Well, over the next 5 or 6 hours, that gush turned into an absolute flood and filled the entire 9th Ward. But they are confident, the Corps tells us tonight, that the rest of this levee system will hold. But there are open questions again about how much rainwater comes here, how much flooding comes here, and is there an area in this levee system that was weakened by Katrina that might be vulnerable if the waters continue to rise here as a result of Rita. Here are conditions tonight, though, in New Orleans, really not serious at all. We've had occasional bands of wind, occasional bands of rain come through. In the past hour, a number of police officers been out patrolling the streets again, and perhaps by daybreak, all of Rita is moved out of here, Sean. But now we wait to see how much flooding could resolve from the rainmaker that Rita will certainly be, at least for a while. You know, is that 2 days? Is that 3 days? Is that 4 days? Nobody really knows at this point. And I tell you, if you think about this story here in New Orleans, think about what the city has gone through in 3.5 weeks. First you get Katrina, and you get the flooding and the fires and the evacuations. Then you got the mayor trying to put certain people in different parts of the city this past week. That plan is put on hold, and here comes Rita, and here comes the floodwaters again. Already they're saying the recovery effort in New Orleans has been pushed back at least 3 weeks from the breaches and the levees and the overtopping of these levees that we saw today here, Sean and Alan.
Bill, thank you very much. We'll be following you throughout the night. Also back to Geraldo Rivera in a few minutes, where he is kind of in the center of it all. And more now on the situation in New Orleans and southwestern Louisiana. Former Louisiana Congressman Bob Livingston. Congressman, this is going to be heartbreaking for some of your former constituents, people in New Orleans who thought maybe they had a chance to get back to their homes, maybe there was an opportunity. And now everything, as Bill Hemmer just pointed out, delayed perhaps a few weeks. And who knows how long it'll be before there might be dry ground there.
Alan, it really is incredible. It's some sort of hideous Groundhog movie, Groundhog Day, rather. It's the people cannot even conceive of the losses that they've suffered. There have been removal from their homes, their businesses, their jobs, their hospitals, their schools, and they're scattered all around the South. My heart goes out to the folks of Texas. They're about to get the same sort of thing that New Orleans has gotten, but Texas was ready. I'm not sure that we were in Louisiana, and now we have to figure out on how we can get back in, how we can rebuild. But Mother Nature just doesn't want to seem to let us do it.
Does this give us second thoughts to rethink this issue of rebuilding now that we see the levees got hit again and water is going back again to the 9th Ward and other places where it really hurt just a week or two ago?
Well, I can't make a judgment on whether or not some of these neighborhoods can ever be retrieved, but clearly they've been devastated by a second round of flooding. St. Bernard Parish is just absolutely ruined, and if it is going to be rebuilt, it's got to be done with a great deal of forethought. The 9th Ward, likewise. Plaquemine Parish, which I haven't heard much about, has been devastated. And these low-lying areas are wonderfully viable communities that are very, very productive in the energy industry, in the port industry, and in the estuaries, in the fishery industry. But how they rebuild in the future, given what they've gone through in the last 3.5 weeks, is anybody's guess.
Hey, Congressman Sean Hannity here. Just to follow up on that thought, because I think a lot more people are thinking about this than they were, say, prior to a week ago, but you have your second instance of flooding, your second hurricane coming in here. Does it really create a scenario we've got to build a levee system that can withstand a Category 5 before you could ever start thinking about rebuilding New Orleans?
Well, I mean, clearly, if somebody's going to invest their own money into building their own houses, and they will indeed, they're going to be looking for high ground, or else they're going to be reluctant to build. Look, Amsterdam built and spent a great deal of money on their levees and successfully has fended off the North Sea. We built to a Category 3. That was a political decision made 30 years ago by the Corps of Engineers and all the members of Congress because, frankly, we haven't had any Category 4 or 5 hurricanes up until recently, at least going back for 100 years. Well, we have now, and we had 2 of them back to back. And clearly, if we're going to rebuild, we better start thinking about those very high levees.
We thank you so much for being with us tonight, sir. And today, the National Hurricane Center issued a hurricane warning from Port O'Connor, Texas, to Morgan City, Louisiana, alerting residents that dangerous hurricane conditions are expected in the next 24 hours. And joining us now on the phone is the mayor of Morgan City, Louisiana, Tim Mott. Mr. Mayor, thank you for being with us, and tell us what's going on in your community right now.
Well, right now the winds are pretty steady, probably tropical storm force as opposed to hurricane force. We're just outside of that hurricane range, so we're feeling tropical storm winds. We've had some significant power outages from time to time. The rainfall seems to be picking up, but it's been raining all day just fairly lightly, so we've been able to keep the pumps going and keep the streets clear thus far.
Do you have to evacuate?
No, we did not. Morgan City, though, is similarly situated to New Orleans in the sense that we're surrounded by water and consequently surrounded by levees. So our big concern is watching the storm surge and watching those levels and make sure that the levees are going to hold and keep us dry.
What do you expect that storm surge to be? How many inches of water do you think ultimately you're going to get here?
Well, the National Weather Service has predicted a storm surge of 10 foot for the Atchafalaya area, and our levees are built to handle that kind of water. We expect that to come in not until around the time the storm makes landfall. So all day long we've been dealing with the winds and the rain, but the storm surge, actually we had dropping river levels for most of the day, which Weather Service says is typical. The big storm will suck the water out first, and then as it makes landfall, it'll start pushing it back in.
Mayor Matt, thank you so much for being with us tonight. We appreciate it. And let us go to Congressman Bobby Jindal. By the way, thousands of Louisiana residents displaced 3 weeks ago by the hurricane, including our current guest. Congressman, I understand you lost your home. Have you got an update on that, and what's happening there right now?
Sure. No, we were actually luckier than most. We had some damage to our home. We had wind damage to our home. My wife's family had water damage in their home. But you meet people in shelters that are still looking for their children, who have lost everything, especially the people in St. Bernard and Paul. We feel very lucky. We were in the district. We've been in the district all day. As you've heard, with these breaches in the levees, it's just tragic. People who thought that finally their homes were dry, who were beginning to, at least in St. Bernard Parish, beginning to go back and just survey the damage. Not move back, but at least survey the damage, to now have to see water, 3 feet of water in many cases, come back. I've got to say, it's a huge psychological blow to the people. They've already lost so much.
How much water are you on the? Is it possible that could come back in there?
I'm sorry. Well, they're right looking at 3 feet of water. The challenge, though, is the Corps is not able to go in there to repair those levee breaches, and so the concern is with time that water is going to continue to flow in. They've not been able to have to those breaches. You may remember last time when they couldn't fix the levee breaks that they had to wait for the water levels to actually equalize. I don't think anybody thinks it'll be that bad this time. They're hopeful to be able to get back in tomorrow and begin some repairs. And, if there's any good news in this, it's that people had already largely been evacuated. You didn't have people living there. If there's any good news, is that a lot of the property has already been underwater. I know that's very little comfort to people who had finally seen their properties dry out.
We thank you so much. We wish you well with your home and, of course, the homes of your neighbors. And thank you so much for being with us tonight. Coming up next, we'll go live to Lake Charles, Louisiana, right in the path of Rita's fury. We'll ask the American Red Cross as well if they're ready for a second major disaster. Still lots to come on this special edition of Hannity and Combs. Stay with us.
Thank you very much.
Now you can fly American for less than you think every day.
Where are we going?
It's a surprise. We know why you fly. We're American Airlines.
Sharp multifunction products transform the office by adding enhanced color to your documents. Then Sharp technology doubled your productivity by scanning two-sided documents in a single pass. Now Sharp's Data Security Kit is transforming the office again by preventing unauthorized access to information while keeping sensitive digital documents from falling into the wrong hands. The Sharp Digital Imager Series, all the productivity you want, all the document security you need.
No SUV has done it before. Mercury Mountaineer is first in owner loyalty 4 years in a row. Mountaineer introduced the disappearing third row seats. And now, there's roll stability control for added safety. You've got room for up to 7. And more than enough space for everything. And everybody. And the Mountaineer has a look all its own.
Now drive the 2005 Mercury Mountaineer for $22,891. No hassles, no gimmicks.
Stop viruses. Stop spyware. stop paying extra. Because Comcast high-speed internet service includes McAfee pop-up blocker, antivirus, and parental controls, free. Comcast and McAfee, all you need to protect your privacy and your family. Call 1-888-COMCAST today.
Back then, if we had told you we have more certified financial planner professionals than any other company, you wouldn't have cared less. Back then, our century of experience in financial services wouldn't have meant a thing. It does now. Because a generation as unique as this needs a new generation of personal financial planning. We are the personal advisors of Ameriprise Financial, the next generation of American Express financial advisors. For a complimentary initial consultation with a financial advisor in your area, call 1-800-AMERIPRISE or visit us at ameriprise.com.
As we continue on Hannity and Combs, thanks for being with us. Geraldo Rivera is right there at Ground Zero at Port Arthur, Texas. We'll get to him in just moments here. Hurricane Rita comes on the heels of the largest national disaster in the country's history. The American Red Cross is already pushed to the limit responding to Hurricane Katrina. Can it handle another massive storm? Joining us now, Red Cross Disaster Operation Officer Rick Schofield. Rick, first of all, you guys have done terrific work. You've been there from the beginning. Are you prepared for number two?
Well, good evening and thank you. We're prepared for number two. We have 2,000 people moving into Texas today. We had people remaining here for people who are supporting the Astrodome and other operations related to Hurricane Katrina, which impacted the state of Texas. And we have moved them into the various shelter hubs and other locations where evacuees from Texas that are leaving the Texas coast are going.
Yeah. Do you have enough money, resources, everything available, or you think you're going to be once again needing some significant input from the American people?
Well, we always need input from the American people. We've spent a lot of money, in fact, more than we've raised at this point for Hurricane Katrina. We know we're going to spend even more for Hurricane Rita. We've always asked the American people for their time, their money, and their blood, and again, we're asking now. But I think it's more than that. I think it's also in your home preparedness, no matter where you are in the country, to take the lessons of people from Katrina and Rita at this point. Look on www.redcross.org at the preparedness checklists that you can be doing for your family so that when your time and your community comes, you're prepared to respond.
Rick, how difficult is it to move people? Some of the evacuees you're moving for a second time, the logistics of that have to be very difficult. And are people by and large cooperative and willing to do what you need them to do to get them from point A to point B?
Well, government is actually responsible for the evacuation, if you would, and the movement of people. Red Cross tries to be there on the other end to take care of the people once they get to their destinations. So, for instance, in the state of Texas, the Governor Division of Emergency Management, working with other political entities in the state of Texas, have come up with a shelter hub plan. They move the people, if you would, to those hubs, at which point they get turned over to go into shelters, and that's where Red Cross wants to be there to be able to help take care of people.
All right, Rick, we wish you the best in all your work there. Thanks for being with us. We go back now once again to our own Geraldo Rivera. He's right there at Ground Zero, Port Arthur, Texas tonight. Geraldo, the winds were really picking up moments ago when we left you. What's the situation now?
It's just getting worse, Sean. The storm is inexorably creeping towards us now, just 85 miles off Sabine Pass. Sabine Pass is the outlet of the intercoastal waterway. It's the boundary line between Louisiana and Texas, and that storm, that dangerous Cat 3 storm, heading right up that alleyway. Greg, you go over there again. See those lights? Those are the shrimp boats. A couple of the skippers have actually stayed on board. The fear is that the water from the intercoastal will come over this seawall. If it does, those vessels will be in this parking lot. The whole city of Port Arthur, actually right at around sea level. Some of it even depressions. You get an idea. I'm out of the wind right now because it just gets too whipping wicked out there. But you get an idea. Just look out at what the storm looks like as it approaches. Now the outer tentacles being felt. The danger, of course, is to the oil refinery. The people are gone, so that's not a problem. Everybody's gone, the cops, everybody.
Geraldo, you were getting whipped around pretty good there. You obviously have a little...
If I get out here... Go ahead, Sean, sorry.
Yeah, because, I mean, that was just, about 20 minutes, half hour ago. Has it picked up significantly since then in terms of...
We're here. I'm coming back out to where the wind is. Watch those wires, boys. You know, everything is it's so rough out here. It's, I'd say this transformers, that's the lights in the sky there. Those are the transformers blowing up.
Yeah.
You know, the whole electrical grid here is under assault. The power is being run by the, being run on autopilot, basically.
Yeah. Well,
all right. But
the authorities also predicted that where you are, and this is, you know, right in the heart of where we think the storm is going to, as it's landing now, really, and we're in the beginning stages of this here, and you see the wind picking up because you're right in the middle of it, but that they think the entire town will be underwater. That means those boats...
I hope that's not true. I hope that's not true, Sean. We're not afraid of the wind. It's not a wind issue. Generally speaking, we can hunker down. A Cat 3 is not going to kill us. It's the water that's the problem. We don't. If the water leaps this seawall, but this is a very solid 15-foot seawall, so if the surge would have to be at least at the maximum of the advertised to come lapping over this thing. If it does, then we're all really up the creek without a paddle, if you know what I mean.
Geraldo, I keep thinking about those people who are from that community, and you said they're all gone, and eventually they're going to have to, or want to come back. One wonders, how long will that be? What are they going to find when they get there? How much more devastation could this community withstand?
This is a very modest community. This is a lot like Bywater or the lower 9th Ward. It's a poor town. The homes are all, there's no foundations because of the elevation. They're just on cinder blocks. I think a lot of those houses are going to be bounced off their cinder block foundation, and if it does flood, it'll be a long, long time. The infrastructure of the oil industry, much more sturdily built, though. Really rugged. You even look at the, you know, those big pipes that burn off the excess natural gas and everything else. It's really anchored down. Although there are no workers there, it's all been evacuated. Still, it's pretty sturdy. That's not. I think that infrastructure has a lot better chance than the town itself, particularly if it does flood. But we're keeping our eye on it. Obviously, we have to keep our own evacuation route open. That's what we're. You know, I got one eye on the camera, and the other eye is on the parking lot and the road out of here. A big, gigantic transformer blew just a couple of seconds before we went on the air, filling the sky with a kind of a blue-green flame. That's another danger as we make our way out of Port Arthur. You know, so we have some decisions to make. I know our colleague Shep Smith is on the other side of town. Shep and I conferred. He didn't believe the town was going to flood either, and I kind of am still sticking with that. I'm hoping that, but right here, we'll be the first. Our team will be the first to know if this seawall starts to get compromised. And believe me, we're not going to let too much water go over the top of it before we start to head out.
So, well, that's specifically, I guess you're on the fly and you'll make your plan a little bit as you go, but for all, I'm trying to understand your plan a little bit better. You're going to try and stay there as long as you can right there in ground zero where you are at Port Arthur. And then the plan is that you're going to go to Beaumont, but yet that is almost equally as dangerous because it's fairly close by.
Beaumont's also getting battered, but they have some Husky buildings up there. They also have some naval vessels that they have been actually loading the emergency vehicles from the city of Beaumont, which is about twice the size of Port Arthur, 112,000 as opposed to about 60,000. Those naval vessels are pretty, you know, they're rugged. They were the big landing ships that they used in the Second World War, and in Korea and Incheon. You know, and they have some very, very top-notch emergency personnel who've really done a great organizational job up in Beaumont. They've invited us to go to head up that way. The problem's going to be from here to there. Beaumont's okay, but if Port Arthur gets compromised, we're afraid that some of those bayous between here and Beaumont, you know, we may be there's we're not above, one of the hotel owners, let me just say this, although the hotels are closed, said if we have to just break the glass that leads to the center cement stairway, and that we can hunker in there. It's a modern building. We can get high enough so that the water won't affect us. But I don't think that I don't know. I don't think it's going to quite come to that. I hope not anyway. We'll watch it. We'll monitor it carefully.
What are we seeing behind? We see lights behind you.
Well, the lights have just come on again. The lights on the boardwalk, which are being run on automatic, have come on again. What you're looking at is the...
It looks like Geraldo is. This has happened a couple of times tonight. The lights are coming back. We'll get an update on that in just a moment. We'll go back to Geraldo as soon as we can.
We're going to go back to Geraldo, and of course, Greta Van Susteren will be coming up 10 Eastern, right after us, and we will be back at midnight on the East Coast, 9 o'clock on the West Coast for a special edition coming up later on Hannity and Combs, and we'll be with Geraldo. We'll be checking in with him all throughout the night. Of course, we have reporters everywhere. We have our own Shep Smith. He's in Beaumont, Texas tonight. We'll check into the situation and all the flooding that's been going on in New Orleans. Our own Bill Hemmer is there, and a lot more to come as we continue to follow Hurricane Rita as it roars towards Texas and Louisiana and the coast. And we'll have full and complete coverage all night, overnight, into the morning, right here on the Fox News Channel.
People everywhere are discovering it. What are you waiting for? Talk to your doctor to see if Lunesta could make a difference for you.
At Hyatt Hotels and Resorts, you'll find Wi-Fi in the guest room and beyond. Here, productivity doesn't require proximity.
Choosing a new low-cost internet service? Check this out. With Netscape's new Web Accelerator, I can surf up to 5 times faster than standard dial-up. And with Netscape, I get Web Accelerator for just $9.95.
Net Zero charges $14.95 for that.
Same speed, less money.
Works for me.
Get Netscape with new Web Accelerator and surf up to 5 times faster for just $9.95. That's over 30% less than Net Zero.
It's just the net you need.
At Regions Bank, we've always been proud of the fact that when our customers needed us, we were there. And now, in the wake of Katrina, we're working harder than ever to make sure that doesn't change. We're opening temporary branches, deploying a mobile ATM, offering special borrowing and deferred payment options, and have reopened over 200 of our affected branches. At Regions, we couldn't be prouder of our associates who have persevered through Katrina and done everything humanly possible to make sure we're still there for you, even in times of crisis. As the largest bank in the region, the Gulf Coast is our backyard. Its people are our neighbors. Their recovery and financial well-being is our mission every single day. Regions Bank, everyday confidence.
Welcome back to Hannity and Combs. I'm Alan Combs. Hurricane Rita roared toward Texas and Louisiana toward the coast today, packing winds of up to 135 miles an hour. We go to Greta Van Susteren, who is live tonight in Houston. How is the weather where you are? What are you experiencing right now, Greta?
Well, it's interesting, Alan. For the last 90 minutes, I've watched my colleagues, Shep and Geraldo and Alicia, suffer through the beginnings of this hurricane that's descending upon this state. Well, now we're getting it. I mean, check out the wind. The wind is coming. We're getting wet. We've had the calm before the storm, and now, of course, Rita has made it known that she is coming here. She is headed here. We don't know how strong she's going to be, but the wind and the rain has started, and so we're all hunkering down, getting ready. People, of course, have been evacuating for the last 36 hours here. The roads were pretty much empty today. Yesterday was the horrible gridlock, and of course this morning was the ultimate tragedy, the bus that burned up on the highway. But right now we're just getting ready. People are just getting ready to see what Mother Nature has in store and see how much of a punch she has.
I know you spend a lot of time talking to people when you go out on these assignments. What is the attitude of people, and are many of the people you're talking to saying, oh no, not again, we just got evacuated? You're dealing there with a lot of double evacuees, it seems.
Yeah, you know, actually in our hotel we do have those double evacuees, but it's sort of interesting watching people. I mean, because today was a beautiful day in Houston. I mean, it was bizarre. It was sunny. It was nice. People were coming in, and then people were sort of joyful, thinking, you know, dogs are coming in and out of the hotel, and it seems like sort of like exciting. Now, though, now that we see the signs, the rain, the wind, people are taking this much more seriously. People are reading the information in the hotel, because the hotel, people here at the Sofitel, they've been terrific. They've been telling us how to prepare for this storm in the event that there's a power outage. They've got flashlights for everybody. So now actually, you know, people are they realize this is for real. This storm is headed here. She could be powerful. She could be strong. We know that she's veering off a little bit to the east and may spare Houston a bit, but this wind could pick up and could do tremendous damage. You know, pieces of buildings can come flying down on people, missiles. So people are taking this very seriously, and you know, obviously we've got these first signs, and it's interesting. You know, we'll have a few minutes where it's relatively calm, and all of a sudden, I'm holding onto the hat, and it's pouring down rain. So it's like, you know, it comes in, you know, it comes in fits. We don't know when we're going to get it, or when we're going to have at least a few seconds of peace.
Hey, Greta, how inland are you where the hotel area is and where you're doing the show tonight? Because you're going to be on right after Hannity and Combs.
We are about, I just give you, we're about 100 miles from Port Arthur, is what I was told a few minutes ago, so that gives you some idea. But, you know, we're not far from the water here. I actually don't know. I've driven past the Astrodome today, but I got so turned around because everyone's been rerouted because the roads have been changed so much because of the evacuation that, frankly, although I spent a lot of time here during the Astrodome, I'm not sure if it's this way or that way or what way. So I'm a little turned around, so I don't know. The only thing I know is that, you know, is that we're not that far from the water, and that we're still in that wonderful umbrella, what's called a hurricane, and people are concerned, Sean.
You know, it's probably a little early to ask this question, but there's certainly signs that we learned a lot of the lessons of New Orleans. I mean, all told, between Louisiana, Houston, Galveston, and everywhere in between, 2 million people were evacuated in as smooth a possible way I can imagine, relatively without incident, except some people losing gas, but they got everybody out.
Yeah, you know, it's so interesting. I mean, I do admire the people here in Houston. I've gone through both, when they were the hero and now, of course, when they're doing the evacuation. I was here right after Katrina hit when they were taking all the evacuees. What always struck me is how well prepared they seem to be both occasions. Now, I know there's a lot of criticism about what happened on the highway yesterday, that there wasn't enough gas, you know, and that's, you know, that's horrible. And I thought to myself, well, you know, this is a terrible inconvenience. I'm sorry these people have to go through it, but that's better than what I saw when I went to New Orleans and we actually saw bodies floating in water. I thought, well, at least nobody died. And then, of course, I got jammed with a little bit of reality today when I woke up to find out that all those people had died on that bus. Now, of course, that's not because Texas didn't have a planned evacuation. I mean, I don't know what the cause of that terrible tragedy is, but all in all, I'm actually quite impressed with it. It's not perfect, but I'm actually very impressed, regardless of a lack of perfection. I will tell you one thing, though. I was at the command center last night, and they were very attentive to trying to solve the problems, which is very important, is whether our leaders or the leaders in the community, you know, they're there to identify the problems and they're there to act. And that's what I saw last night. So I actually am quite impressed with what's been done so far.
Rita, we'll, of course, be following this on your show, On the Record, right after Hannity and Combs. Thank you for joining us tonight. And joining us now on the phone is the Houston official who led the transfer of evacuees from the Louisiana Superdome to the Astrodome in Houston. He's now leading the evacuation of the third most populous county in the United States. We're joined by Harris County Judge Robert Eccles. Judge, thank you for being with us. And how is that evacuation going? What can you tell us about it?
Well, the evacuation has been completed. It did, as Greta had said earlier, it did work as designed. We had some problems with the evacuation in the traffic, but as we had problems develop during the evacuation of the Katrina victims here to Houston, we dealt with it, and today the roads are clear. The folks are out. The area in Galveston, East Harris County, the places where this storm we believe was going to hit during the during the hours up until this time last night and up till earlier this morning. This storm was barreling directly onto Houston, and we would see Greta being blown around considerably more than she is right now.
How do you place everybody? How do you determine where everybody goes and find proper lodging and food and get everything you need?
Well, it was a little more complicated this time with the Katrina refugees here, the folks who had come over from Louisiana, because many of our hotels and other shelter locations were full. We work with the state of Texas. They actually designed a plan moving beyond Houston into Dallas and Austin and College Station and places outside of the city. We had a lot of folks coming from the Sabine River area over there where Geraldo was earlier in your show that came over this way and actually evacuated north as well, and that caused some conflicts going north towards Lufkin from the Houston and the Beaumont people both going in the same direction. But in all, it worked pretty well. We have folks in Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, College Station. Some people probably went as far as Oklahoma because of the problems with hotel rooms. But in the end, we did get the folks out, and the areas in Galveston and southeast Harris County are emptied. Hundreds of thousands. I'm going to say that we've likely had well over 1 million people that moved out of the Houston area, and was with relatively little incidents.
Hey, Judge, thank you for being with us. It's Sean Hannity. If at the end of the day the traffic was long, there was a temporary shortage of gasoline, but everybody that wanted to get out was able to get out in plenty of time, I think by any measure we have to say that that was a successful evacuation of ultimately 2 million people. The question I have for you is, there are some people that decided to stay, decided to ride out the storm, that refused to evacuate.
Yes.
What's going to happen if they need assistance?
Well, during the storm, once the storm hits and the wind speeds pick up right now down in Galveston, the wind speeds, I'm looking at our chart here, is around 41, 35 miles an hour, 40 miles an hour. As the wind picks up in Galveston and in our area, if we were in a Beaumont-type situation right now with the much stronger winds, we would wind up, they would be stuck until the first responders could get in after the storm. Once the storm gets moving, they don't send the ambulances out or the fire engines or the police. It's we look at it as we're supposed to protect those people and have them available to help after the storm. We'll do rescue efforts and pull them out, but if a 20-foot or 30-foot storm surge came over the seawall in Galveston and there were people behind it that just had elected not to leave and had no protection, they would have to be pretty much on their own until after the storm was over, because we just can't get people into them.
All right. Thank you, Judge. We appreciate you being with us tonight. We're joined, or rejoined, I should say, by AccuWeather's Joe Bastardi. He's given us the very latest now on the tracking of Hurricane Rita. Joe, here we are. It's beginning to hit, my friend.
Yeah, it's coming in a little bit further north and east in our path of the most worry, which was the eastern side of Galveston up toward Houston. So it's coming in about 30, 40 miles east of that. And that just means Beaumont, Port Arthur is getting pounded. You can see right behind me, the system is just making steady progress off to the northwest. Now, you folks in Houston, you're going to get hurricane-force winds out of the north. This is a big storm, but the place that's really going to get hammered is that the Golden Triangle in there. You know, each one of these storms that we've covered here for you on Fox, I've been talking about what's going on down in this pattern, and I'll tell you what, a week from today, we may be watching the Western Caribbean and that area, because it's not ready to give up yet. So, Joe, the point of the matter is, this is a heck of a season. It's continuing.
All right, let's go through this, because it's beginning to hit now. For the people that are watching, it looks like Port Arthur, it looks like Beaumont getting a direct hit, but yet hurricane-force winds in Galveston, in Houston, and in portions of Louisiana over there, as you're describing. What are the force of the winds? When will the full impact hit, by your estimation?
Well, I think that once we get to 1, 2 o'clock in the morning to about 5 o'clock in the morning, that's when we're going to see the wind gust over 150 miles an hour near the mouth of the Sabine River. We're probably going to get gust in Lake Charles 110, 115. I say Galveston gets a north gust 100, 105. Houston, hurricane force. And what's going to happen is this storm's going to go inland. It's going to blow down a lot of trees inland. And then we're going to get all this heavy rain, because it's going to sit around East Texas for several days. There's even some thought that it could try to back southwestward toward the Gulf of Mexico again. Not so much intensify into a storm or a hurricane like Ivan did, but just tremendous rains.
We only have a moment left here. But what surprises could there be to throw us, or do we pretty much know what's going to happen at this point?
Well, I think we know what's going to happen. The only little problem I have is some of the computer models give it a little west jaunt there for several hours between 10, 11 o'clock and about 3 a.m., which could increase the impact in the Galveston area. But there's no getting out now in Port Arthur. and those places there. They're in for the worst.
Joe.
In the Port Arthur area since Audrey back in 57.
All right, and we'll be checking in with Geraldo, who's in Port Arthur tonight. Shep Smith is in Beaumont tonight. We'll be checking back in with you, Joe, at midnight tonight, right after Greta, for a special 2-hour edition, midnight to 2 a.m. Eastern Time on Hannity and Combs when we come back tonight. But first, we want to get a quick check of what's happening in Clute, Texas, where our own Mike Emanuel is standing by tonight. Mike.
Well, hi, Sean. Yeah, we've seen emergency personnel out and about this evening, and they seem to be breathing a sigh of relief because Clute, this area just off the Texas Gulf Coast, they're saying they believe is now going to be on the dry side, the so-called dry side of the hurricane. So while we are seeing some conditions similar to a hurricane where there is rain falling, there is wind blowing, they don't believe that they're going to be the hardest hit community. Obviously, they feel for their neighbors further up the Texas Gulf Coast and into the Louisiana Gulf Coast. But a lot of people here, we saw when they were evacuating yesterday, had a great anxiety on their faces as they're grabbing their valuables, grabbing their pets, and leaving town, wondering if they were going to come back to anything. There is some flooding at Surfside Beach just across the bridge from here. We went to higher ground because we were told we could get stuck on that island if the bridge were damaged on the way. But the word here so far is it is raining, it is windy. A lot of people here seem to think that comes as par for the course living in this part of the country. And so far, they're breathing a sigh of relief, although we expect things will get worse as the night goes on.
All right, Mike Emanuel in Clute, Texas tonight. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. Now, that is all the time that we have this evening. In about 2 hours, in 2 hours from right now, midnight Eastern, 9 o'clock on the West Coast, we'll be back for a special 2-hour edition of Hannity and Combs. Thank you for being with us. Stay tuned. Our special Fox News Channel coverage of Hurricane Rita continues as Greta Van Susteren comes up next as she goes on the road.
This is a Fox News alert. Hurricane Rita is about to make landfall. It's going to happen in the next couple hours, but already she has indicated to the Gulf states that she is coming. She is mad. She is blowing strong winds, rain all over the area. We are live in Houston tonight, where, as you can see, even though we're about 100 miles from Port Arthur, which is going to be ground zero, at least that's the anticipated ground zero for this hurricane, we're about 100 miles, but already the symptoms are here. The rain, we get gusts of wind. I can stand here calmly for a few seconds, for a few minutes, and suddenly a gust of wind will just move me off my steps a couple feet. And this is just the beginning. She's not expected to get here for a couple hours, but we are watching this all over the Gulf Coast. Our reporters are all over. We have reporters in Port Arthur. We have reporters in Beaumont. We have reporters watching Galveston. This is a very dangerous storm. She is coming this way, and she intends to cause great damage. There's going to be flooding. There could be buildings incurring structural damage. There could be lots of problems, but we are here, we are watching it, and in fact, we're going to go straight to one of my colleagues who is standing by in Nassau Bay, Alicia Acuna, with the latest there. Alicia?
Hi, Greta. It seems we're experiencing here something similar to what you've been talking about. We have these moments that feel like a weaker band is coming through here, and we're standing up just fine, and then next thing you know, whack, I feel like I get knocked in the side of the head. So it's kind of a disorganized feel. We can pan off here and show you a little bit how the rain is falling. It's been falling in different directions, and at times it seems like it's just coming at itself. And one thing that's good for sure, at least where we're standing, is there's still power, at least in this hotel where we are. Up the road, I've been told that there have been some power outages. We have a backup generator here, but it's just really for some of the general functions of the hotel, but really just kind of getting a battering down by the wind here. You can just see off behind me here the palm trees there. Sometimes they're doing okay, and then other times they don't look like they're going to hold up so well. We are standing here right in front of Clear Lake. This is, see what I'm talking about? This lake feeds right into, there's a channel right behind me there, which you can't see now, it's too dark, but it feeds into Galveston Bay. The concern right now, we talked to the city manager of Galveston earlier tonight, and the concern right now is flooding. It's after effects. They're not expecting structural damage on Galveston. You know, of course, earlier in the week, Galveston was looking at a possible direct hit. That didn't happen now that everything has sort of moved northeast, but they did prepare for the worst by evacuating almost everyone who lives there in Galveston. But definitely already seeing some flooding there. We've been told that the west end of the island, now this is the portion of the island on the Gulf side that is not protected by that 10-mile long seawall that protects a portion of Galveston on the Gulf side. Now, We talk about now about the north side of Galveston, the bay side. What the expectation is that the bay is going to swell, and it's going to push about 5 to 8 feet of water over the island on that side. There is no protection there for the structures that lie there. And I can tell you just from driving through that area and seeing it, there are plenty of homes there that are looking at the possibility of damage. So a lot of flooding to contend with, some wind damage as well, Greta. But for the most part, they're not going to get that direct hit, that really harsh pounding that they were anticipating earlier in the week. Greta?
Alicia, well, that community may have gotten off the hook, but Port Arthur, Texas is not. That is supposed to be, at least at this point, ground zero. Geraldo is there. Geraldo?
Greta, it appears as if we're in the crosshairs of Hurricane Rita right now. One of those kind of unnatural calms. The winds come and go, but they've gusted well over 60 knots. Beaumont reported 80 knots. That's just up the Sabine River here. Behind me, and the lights have been on and off all night, that's the seawall. That is the Port Arthur seawall. On the other side of that, Greta, is the Intercoastal Waterway. Those lights down to the right there, Greg, those lights are shrimp boats. The fear is, and some of the captains are actually on board those vessels riding out the storm. But if that storm surge, Greta, does reach over 15 feet, the fear is that this seawall will be surmounted by the ocean. Those shrimp boats could well end up on this side. Now, if you pan from the Intercoastal Waterway to the town itself, Port Arthur, it's absolutely deserted. It has been evacuated by absolutely everybody, Greta. The emergency services people are out of here. The government has left. All of the residents, as far as I can see, in their very modest homes. It's a poor city, not unlike the Bywater or lower Ninth Ward sections of New Orleans. The vast majority of them, as far as I can tell, all of them are gone. This is a ghost town. The reason being the fear, not of the wind, although those winds can obviously be bitter and damaging. The fear is, again, of this seawall being, if not breached, then they don't believe that breaching is really a possibility. It's a much better built feature or structure than the levees of New Orleans. But if it is overmounted by the sea, the town of Port Arthur is so low-lying, they're fearing that it will be flooded. Again, right now, the predicted storm surge is about the same height as the seawall itself. Why is this so absolutely critically important? Because Port Arthur, here, the so-called Golden Triangle, here to Beaumont, to Lake Charles, Louisiana, these are the heart and soul of the American oil refining industry. Now, the industry, with 25,000 workers already evacuated, is absolutely shut down. But the fear is that as this storm persists, and as this hurricane, this strong Cat 3 hurricane, now about 80 miles south of the Sabine Pass, where I was earlier today, as it comes roaring up here, it will damage the infrastructure of the American oil refinery. We all know what has happened as a result of Katrina to gas prices. So the woeful prospect is that with this thing heading now, thankfully, Houston and the big populated areas spared, this place evacuated, but the fear is that the oil refining capacity of the country gets damaged, and those gas prices go sky high, Greta.
Geraldo, one quick question about those shrimp boats. You're a sailor. I assume that those shrimp boats are tied down pretty well, but did you get close to them? And look, if these people are on these boats and they get that kind of wind without a keel, that could be very dangerous for those men and women who are on those boats.
Definitely, and as professional as they are, go back to the shrimp boats, Greggy, as professional as they are, there's no captain that can steer a vessel if the water picks it up, takes it over the seawall, and deposits it in a parking lot or in a field. And I tell you, that is, to me, a very real risk. And these boats are we're 10 miles in from Sabine Pass. There's a lot of shrimpers still out there, and you've got the big oil rigs out there. You got the big floating, oil derricks out there, or the rigs where they actually drill out in the Gulf. That place is littered with millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of infrastructure for the oil refining industry, and all of it now taking a severe pounding from this Cat 3 storm. Thank God, Rita. Rita, sorry. Hurricane Rita. Thank God, Greta, it did not come ashore as a Cat 5.
All right, Geraldo, thank you from Ground Zero. And, of course, we are live in Houston, and the winds come and go here. Just as Alicia said, 1 second we're going to be pushed off our feet. The next second we're just getting wet. Let's check in with Rick Reichmuth to find out exactly where this storm is headed and when it's going to hit landfall. Rick?
Hey, Greta, I tell you, yeah, from where you are, this is exactly what's happening. You can see you're on the western side of this. You're going to be seeing these winds out of the north. You're certainly in the good side of this. I want to look a little bit closer at this storm. Move in here. The eye is getting very close to shore at this point. What you see is this inner eye wall. We've also had what you can maybe call an outer eye wall right along in here where we're seeing the first hurricane force winds. And we've seen some of these gusts up here across the shore. This, of course, where all of the worst of it is. This outer eye wall right here now getting very close in towards the shore. In fact, right around 16, maybe around 15 to 20 miles is all you're looking at. The storm moving around 10, 11 miles an hour. And at that point, we're talking about could be seeing this outer eye wall affect the landfall maybe in around 2 hours. Now, we talk about this eye wall. This is where the worst of it is. The center of it, where we're going to be talking from kind of where the winner is. People like to talk about where the center actually passes. It's where the pressure is the lowest. That likely around 45 miles away. Of course, this eye wall takes a long time, or the entire eye takes a long time before we can move this a little bit closer to shore. Want to move a little bit closer in across some of these coastal areas. Take a look at this because we've been seeing some of the strongest winds across the shore, and we can get a closer idea of what some of the radar is as we move a little bit closer here. This right here is the Louisiana-Texas border, and this is where we've been seeing some of these heaviest showers and some of those winds close to hurricane force. And Greta, where you are in Houston, we can move a little closer, and you see most of the heaviest rain at this point kept a little bit further off towards the east, although we do expect to see some of those rain showers there. This is what the current winds are looking like. These are sustained at this point, so you can see right around 40 to 50 miles an hour in towards Cameron. Now, this Cameron area I'm really concerned about because we've seen this storm. It looks like moving a little more towards the north-northwest instead of just the northwest, and in fact, that could bring it